Hello friends, I welcome you all to the online session on Compulsory English BA Part 3 class. So in the last session we have already started to discuss module number 1 part B, the interview, a funny abstract by V.V. Jones. In the last session we discuss or we deal with Professor V.V. Jones' biography. We learn that he is an Anglo-Indian author who has worked as a professor in the universities of Kerala and Odisha. He has also designated as a director of education in Rajasthan. He has also worked as a vice chancellor. And before starting his administrative career, he has also worked as a journalist in different prestigious Indian presses. So in the last session, we have started this unit to discuss. As we discussed that this is a reading comprehension unit, so it is necessary for us to read the unit and then try to understand it, then try to comprehend the unit. So this is what is important thing that we have learned already. In the first paragraph we learned that there is a communication between interviewer and a candidate, and how candidate counter questions to the interviewer, and uh, interviewer think that the man is over smart, so his ego was hurt, so he didn't get the job. So this is what we learn. The second paragraph, author explores the situation and gives us a very practical example, advice that a little learning may be dangerous thing, a lot of it would be a disastrous. So this is what you can see is the learning we have in this particular uh, paragraph. We get it from these two paragraphs. So see then, uh, in the third paragraph we again came in funny situation where a candidate borrow a silk suit from his friend to impress the interviewers, but instead of that, interviewers get the impression that this impression rather a dandy, I thought. So this is what uh, is a kind of a funny situation we generally have. So these are the three paragraphs we have already seen, we have already read it line by line, and now let us read another two paragraphs of this unit and try to understand what is written in it. So let us see. This prejudice against finery is not general. There was a high functionary with whom no seeker after job had any success unless the crease of his trousers was perfect. He was also particular that the candidate's pronunciation of English should be a faultless, though he himself used to pronounce stifle so as the rhythm with a piffle, and was unaware that tiny and tiny were not pronounced alike. All things else, including the candidate's special aptitude and qualification for the job in a question, were of subsidiary importance. This attitude, which is a fairly common, must be responsible for the ascendancy of the slick and the slick multitude that is currently holding on to comfortable jobs up and down the country. So see, this is again a very critical comment on the interviewers. Many times it happens in at the time of interview that these interviewers expect too much from the candidates. They themselves don't know about they themselves don't know much about the subject, but they try to question them and try to outwit them by silly questions. So this is what, and this again they were prejudiced. What is the prejudice? Prejudice against the finery is not general. So finery is not a general thing. There was a high functionary with whom no seeker after jobs had any success unless the crease of his trouser was perfect. So you can understand that crease of his trouser was not perfect. So they give importance to a very small or irrelevant thing instead of judging their subject knowledge, instead of judging their judgment of balance, instead of judging their moral and intellectual integrity, instead of judging all these things. What they judge whether he is a dandy or not, what kind of pronunciation he has, how he see it, how he look into the eyes of the candidates, eyes of the interviewers, how he give the file. Such a kind of small things they consider and reject the candidate instead of judging them truly, judge his true knowledge, subject knowledge, instead of judging his balance of judgment, instead of judging his character. They try to consider all these things. uh, Many times it happens that they don't know much or many things, but they presume themselves that they know everything, and they try to question these candidates and try to make them outwit and reject. So this is what he is saying. He was also particular that the candidate's pronunciation of English should be faultless. We were living in India, and many times it happens with us that our pronunciation was not good, or pronunciation was not as per the received pronunciation, that is British received pronunciation. So that is not the matter, that is not the question. Really, the question is that whether he know about the knowledge or about the subject or not. So this is what the question is. But they expect from them that their pronunciation should be a faultless. Then though he himself used to pronounce stifle so as a rhyme of the piffle. So this is what you can see is the harsh criticism on the interviewers. So this is what he is saying. All thing else, including the candidate's special attitude and qualification for the job in question, were of a subsidiary importance. So job in such a kind of interview, you can see the aptitude and qualifications for the job are subsidiary importance, and all these things, that what kind of dress he has, what kind of, how he comb his hairs, and how he sit, how he smile, how overconfident he was, such kind of things become more important. So this happens in the many of the interview situation. So he is asking, he is criticizing to the interviewers for their such attitudes. They think themselves as very knowledgeable person. They think themselves that they were very good in pronunciation, though they were not. So and they expect from the candidates that they should pronounce faultlessly. So this is what they were thinking about. So this paragraph is in fact a criticism on the interviewers. They think themselves as a master of the subject, a very knowledgeable person, but though they have many faults, they expect that another man candidate should be a faultless. So this is what they were expecting from the candidates. So this is what is the fourth paragraph is. See the fifth paragraph. Let us read this fifth paragraph. It is about a time that something was done about the unequal contest of the average interview. So this is what the time where unequal contest of the average interview were done. Have you any hobbies? Who is your favorite author? Have you any? What is a strontium 90? What do you think of a appetite? How does jet propulsion work? And so on and so forth. So there are the questions they were ask, they go on asking you questions, and you go on answering them the questions. For the greatest fool may ask more questions than the wisest man can answer. So this is what again a very harsh kind of criticism author is doing with uh, author is making towards these interviewers. He is saying that for the greatest fool may ask more question than the wisest man can answer. So this is what he is saying. He is criticizing to the so what happens many times, these interviewers go on asking questions, and many times these questions were irrelevant to the qualification or attitude aptitude required for the job. So he is saying that for the greatest fool may ask more questions than the wisest man can answer. Then see the next paragraph. If appointing authority were sportsmen, they would make it an equal contest, allowing the candidate to ask question in their turn and giving job to those who can outwit the interviewing boards in the shortest possible time. So this is what a he thinks this is an ideal situation or ideal uh, way to conduct the interview. Instead of only interviewers will ask the questions and candidate will answer the question, instead of that, candidate will ask the question and interviewers will answer the questions, and the candidate who takes a very little time to outwit to these interviewers will be selected. So this is a kind of reverse situation. Instead of asking questions, interviewers will answer the questions, and the candidate who outwit them in a shortest time will be selected. So this is what is according to this author, this is what the ideal method of conducting the interview. So this is what he is thinking about. So in this paragraph he gives us a solution, practical solution to this question, that the interviewers questions regarding the interviewers. Then see next paragraph. The table would then be turned too often for the comfort of the mighty Olympians. Can you briefly explain the theory of relativity? The inquisitor would ask. No, sir, but can you? Would be the candidate's reply. Under the old dispensation, the inquisitor could solemnly remind the candidate, young man, don't forget, we are interviewing you. But under the more sporting arrangement, I recommend the old chap will have to acknowledge his inability to explain relativity briefly or at length. So this is what you can see a another paragraph, another uh, funny situation is given here. So when a question is asked to an Olympian, that can you, in a very sporty atmosphere the interviews were arranged, and in such a interviews, when the question is asked by an interviewer that can you briefly explain the theory of relativity, the inquisitor would ask, no, sir, but can you? So, this is what the answer is. I don't know what exactly the theory of relativity, but can you answer this? What is the theory of relativity? Old dispensation, it means that in old situation, these interviewers may remark that young man, don't forget we are interviewing you and you are not interviewing us. But in such arrangement that this author is recommending to us, you can see he should, the interviewer should explain whether he is able or unable to explain the theory of relativity. So this is what a counter change in the situation of an interview that we generally consider in a general notion. So this is what the paragraph is about. The last paragraph. And then the candidate would start his innings. Why, sir? Is it that the sun shines only during the day and not at night? In a plane traveling faster than a sound, can you, sir, converse audibly with the fellow passenger? Question mark. And finally, sir, how high is up? And if that doesn't get him, please let me know. So this is what is again a very funny kind of situation. The candidate is asking to the interviewers such a funny questions. Why, sir, is it that the sun shines only during the day and not at the night? So this kind of questions were, so he, what is intention of the author, that he wants to make a fun of the situation that we have today in the case of a formal interview. The interviewers ask you a questions and you are supposed to answer the questions. Many times this answer and questions are very irrelevant. Many times these interviewers judge you from your dress, how you comb your hairs, how you walk into the interview hall, how you sit, instead of your attitude, aptitude, your qualification for the job, your real ability to discharge the duties that were required for the holding of the designation. So this is what is happening today. So this author try to give a very practical kind of solution to such a kind of situation. He says that he gives us a situation where the candidate will ask the question to the interviewers instead of only interviewers ask the question to the candidates. So this is what is a reverse situation, and he says that if a candidate outwit to the interviewers in a very minimum time, he will be selected. So this is what he is suggesting to us. This is what the end of this short abstract. This is a very funny kind of abstract written by V.V. Jones, Anglo-Indian writer. We read it line by line and try to comprehend it. It is not a very difficult one, as most of the paragraphs were easy one to understand. So let us see the glossary and notes. Venerable, old and respected, venerable gentleman of the interview panels. Venerable means old and respected. Reminiscences. Reminiscences means the act of remembrance or telling about past experiences. So when these interviewers will tell the past experiences, they will not tell that they have once asked a wrong question to the candidate. So this is what remains as the act of remembrance. Then wardrobe, clothes, a collection of clothes that a person owns or wears. So many times we have a meager wardrobe, meager little clothes. So we borrow a silk suit from a friend to impress these interviewers. Try, and instead of impressing them, you can see they get the otherwise impression and they judge you that you are a dandy. Then meager means very small or too small in amount. This disdainfully, this is an adjective, sorry, adverb. And what is it? Full of expressing contempt for someone or something regarded as a unworthy or inferior, full of expressing scorn and disdain. So this is what the prejudice of the interviewers regarding the candidate. Then prejudice, we all know about the prejudice. It is a very simple word, a feeling of like or dislike for someone or something, especially when it is not a reasonable or logical. त्याचा मराठी शब्दाचा अर्थ जर बघायचा म्हटला तर न्यूनगंड असा होतो प्रिजुडाइसचा अर्थ. Then functionary, see a person who works for a government or a political party, called as a functionary. Then sleek is a straight and smooth in design or shape, smooth and shiny, stylish and attractive. This is a sleek. Then slike is very smooth and slippery, clever in usually a dishonest or deceptive way. So this is what sleek and sleek adjective. So we want to give a sleek impression and we give a sleek impression to the interviewers. Then apartheid, this is a movement in African American people or South African people. Racial segregation, specifically the policy of segregation and political economic discrimination against the non-European groups in the Republic of South Africa, that is called as a apartheid. Apartheid is a social movement against the racial segregation. This dispensation, what is this? A system, a general state or ordering of things. dispensation. So this is again a noun. Then solemnly. Solemnly is an adverb. Uh, so very serious or formal in manner or behavior or expression, sad and serious. So this is what you can see is a uh, glossary and notes. I don't think that all these are very difficult to understand. Only thing is that you should read it once or twice. I have also posted this text on our group. So go through the book, read it, and try to understand it. So this is a reading comprehension, therefore we read it line by line, and it is expected from you also that you should read the original text instead of reading the guide material or instead of reading the sim material. So read the original text and try to understand it and enjoy the text, and try to understand it or try to analyze it on two way, that is what is written and how it is written. Both are important. So we will stop here and continue the same in the next session. Probably in the next session we will uh, understand the uh, questions, question answers, or uh, we will see uh, the all these exercises. So we will stop here and continue the same in the next session. Thank you for listening.